Okay, part two. We're gonna do the lower body. So if you watched part one, you saw the upper, now we're gonna do the lower. I always start in the same spot because this is the junction point for us. This is our center of gravity. So you wanna spend some time down through here. Even if you're just working the upper body, you wanna spend some time down through here. So part two, same thing. You're gonna feel for the top of her hips. You're gonna let your fingers sink in to just kind of like they're just folding over the edge of it. And then you're just going to make some small circles, move your hands back and forth. Just like this. You do each one of these points for a minute or so. They don't really need to be done that much longer. If you want to spend more time, you can, but a minute is pretty good. So you're going to do that, and you're going to do that on both sides. So you can do that on one at a time. You can come here and do just the opposite side. You can do them both at the same time. There's no right or wrong. I generally do one at a time, just because I want to see how the pelvis is moving independently of the other. Next thing we're going to do, after we do that point, is we're going to feel for her scapula. So your scapula is an upside down triangle. So my daughter's tailbone's here. Her scapula, I can feel the edges of her bone right here. So her scapula sits just like this. And what you're going to do is from the full length of it. So here's the full length of my daughter's scapula, sacrum. If I said scapula, I meant sacrum. Scratch that. Her sacrum. You're going to come about halfway. So when you come halfway, again, you're going to feel for the ridge. Here's my daughter's sacrum. You're going to come over and just over the edge of it, and about midway through, you're going to just do the same thing, these small circles. And you can let your fingers come higher or lower, and the person on the table can help direct you and say, yeah, that's more sensitive. It's generally in this area, but it could be generally anywhere, okay? But just understand that when I say generally, that's what I mean, generally in this area. So same thing, you're going to just stimulate this point, just back and forth, until it starts to feel a little bit better, or about a minute or so. The next point that you want to come down to is you want to feel for where the person's sit bones are. Now we all know where those are. That's where our hamstrings come and they attach. So you're going to need to take your fingers and kind of just like come underneath the person's bottom and just kind of just press in a little bit. And you'll feel it. And as soon as you feel it, and this might be ticklish on some people, and again, you're not pushing hard. It may look like I'm pushing hard, but I'm really not. And all you're going to do is you're going to just do the same thing we've been doing. We're just using these little circles, this back and forth, up and down, just to stimulate that point. Now, my pressure is sort of going in this direction, right? So if my fingers are pressing down, they're sort of going like this. So I'm kind of coming down on an angle. I'm not just straight up and down. This way here kind of gives a little bit of a vector to the muscle tissue, and it's very good for that to kind of just help break that up just a tiny bit. Again, even though that's not what we're trying to do. These are just stimulation points. Next point you're going to come to is you're going to take the middle, so the back of her knee, the upper part of her leg, you're going to come basically right in the middle. There's the bullseye. You're going to take, fingers are a little tough. If you take your finger pressure, it's either going to tickle the person. If they have tight hamstrings, they're not going to like that very much. So you can either take the back of your fingers and you can use this. The reason is because it's a broader surface and it's easier for the person to take. If the person's hamstrings are ticklish, the person on the table will be able to tell you, and you can just adjust the pressure accordingly. If the person is really ticklish, just take your hands and just use static pressure. And you don't even need to make any movements. After about 20 or 30 seconds, the person on the table's nervous system should respond to that, and they should be able to manage the movement after that point. So, well, we've got phone ringing in the background. So you're just going to keep up with this motion, keep up with this movement. And then from this point, after we've done this point, you're going to come to where the knee is. So the knee is right here, and what you're going to do is you're going to fall off just the edge of it. So here's the knee, here's where her joint comes, right? You can see this, right? So right here, you'll feel a little bone. You're going to feel this little bone right through there. And what we want to do is we want to come down just off that just a little bit. So where the bone is, you come down just a finger or two width apart, and you're going to stimulate this. And at the same time, you're gonna come right where the hinge is right here, you're gonna come up just a little bit higher than that. So these 2 points you can do together, right? So my 2 fingers here are working on those 2 points. So you can do those 2 points together. Basically, you're touching the tendons for what helps the joint do this. So I'm just rolling my fingers back and forth over those 2 points. And same thing, a minute or so when you do it. Next, we're going to come to the lower leg. So the lower leg, same thing. Cut it in half, and then cut it in half. So the bullseye is just this general vicinity. So where the Achilles tendon, which comes up to about this far, from this point on, it starts to become the muscle. So right about where the Achilles tendon makes the muscle contact, or the tissue structure shifts, is where you want to be. Same thing, you can use your thumb, which is what I generally do, but I get in there light to start, because for the same reason as the hamstring, this can feel very, very ticklish. So you can use 2 fingers if you want. You can use just your thumb if you're gentle. You can use the back of your palm, and you can use that. But again, gently. You just want to gently have that. So Jess, all of the pressures that I used, you could feel a little difference in the surface tension, right? But as far as the pressure is the same, yes?
It's been consistent.
Yeah. So just because you're using your hand doesn't mean you have to press harder. Just because you're using your fingers doesn't mean you have to get in there real pointy-like. That's not going to feel nice. So you'll do that. And then the last thing that you can do is where the Achilles tendon attaches to the ankle bone. You can take that and you sort of pinch it in between your fingers, not hard, and you can just rotate this back and forth, where you can see that I'm just manipulating her tendon just like this, back and forth. Okay, so just to go over it again, you start here, then you go to the sacrum, you go to the edge of the sacrum, you come down here, and you touch where the hamstrings attaching to the sit bone. Then you come down to the mid part of the leg, the mid part of her thigh, her hamstrings, where the real meat of the muscle is. And you just do the same thing. You can do it with your fist, you can do it with your thumb, but I recommend using the back of your fist. Then you come down here, you hit these points where the knee hinges. You hit these points just above and below it. Same thing, you just rotate this back and forth. You come back down to the mid part of the calf. You roll back and forth. Lastly, you come to the Achilles tendon, you roll it, you shake it, all this stuff. If you do these together, so you can do part 1, part 2, doesn't matter which one you do first, but if you do the whole thing, it'll only take you about 15 or 20 minutes to do it. And if you do it, the person on the table is going to love you for it, and they are going to feel much different. And again, don't use a lot of pressure, just hit the points. If you've got questions or you want to leave some comments, do so on the page. This way I can get back in touch with you. And that's it. These techniques you can also do for yourself, which everything that I just showed you, except for maybe this one down through here and this one, you can touch yourself. So the same principles for massaging somebody else can be used for self-massage techniques. So please, do this, do it for yourself and your partner while you're stuck in the house. Again, any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching. Satnam.